They smiled like it was normal. Like this wasn't a complete betrayal wrapped in casual cruelty. My brother shoved 2 strollers into my hands at the train station, kissed my cheek and said, "We're heading to Dubai. You'll be fine with the kids." I stood there frozen, a small overnight bag at my feet, a candle in my hand, a gift I'd bought for my mom who said this was a girl's weekend to heal. My name is Danielle. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever been treated like an emotional janitor for the people who hurt you? My brother's 2 toddlers clung to my knees, sticky fingers, tired eyes. They didn't know what just happened. But I did. This wasn't a mistake. This was a setup. "I'll Venmo you some cash," my mom said as she walked away with them, designer duffel in hand. "We really need this break." No apology. No shame. Just silence. Like they'd already decided my time, my healing, my existence didn't matter. I didn't cry. I didn't even speak. I just nodded and waved goodbye. And then I called someone they never expected. Her name is Rachel, and she is the mother of my brother's children. The legal mother. The one he told everyone had abandoned them after the divorce. What he never said. That she was forced out of the country without due process, after he falsified documents and seized full custody while she was hospitalized. When I found out months ago, it gutted me, but I said nothing. I watched them twist the story into a martyrdom monologue for my brother. But now I had the strollers. Now I had the evidence. Now I had her kids and a reason. "Rachel," I whispered into the phone. "They're with me. You have 24 hours to get here." She cried. I didn't. My train ticket became her flight reservation. And while my family posed for rooftop selfies in Dubai, her name lit up the immigration system back home. Sometimes revenge isn't rage. It's restoration. It's letting the truth in and watching it burn politely. And this was only the beginning. I didn't take the kids to my apartment. I took them to a friend's place outside the city. Quiet, wooded, private. No cameras. No nosy neighbors. No chance of concerned relatives showing up to do damage control. The kids didn't know me well, but they didn't cry. I think they could feel the difference. The way my voice didn't rise, the way my arms didn't yank. I just made them oatmeal, tucked them into bed and read Goodnight Moon 3 times. I didn't text my mom. I didn't call my brother. I let the silence fester. The next morning Rachel landed. I met her at the gate with a black hoodie pulled over her curls and a fire in her eyes that hadn't burned in years. "They're really safe?" she asked, breathless, hands shaking. "They're napping in a fort made of couch cushions and dinosaur blankets," I said. "They're waiting for you." When she saw them, when her son whispered, "Mommy?" like a question he hadn't dared ask in a year, I turned away. She fell to her knees. I let her sob into their clothes. And I didn't feel righteous. I didn't feel powerful. I just felt right. My phone buzzed that afternoon. How are my angels? Send pics. Me, they're safe. That was it. No emojis. No hearts. Just truth. By sunset my brother tried calling. I let it ring. Then again. Then again. By the 5th missed call he switched tactics. "Brother, hey, small mix-up. We'll be back soon. Just keep him fed and happy." "Thanks, sis." That word nearly broke me. Like abandoning me, a grieving, burned-out woman, with 2 toddlers was the same as ordering the wrong takeout. But I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Because while Rachel braided her daughter's hair and sang lullabies through tears, her lawyer was already filing an emergency custody motion. And immigration had frozen my brother's re-entry until the hearing. See, what they forgot was this. I didn't just survive grief. I studied law while in it. And I never said a word. I let them dig the hole. I just handed them the shovel. Because sometimes the most dangerous woman in the room is the one they think is too sad to stand. And I had just started standing. By the time my brother realized something was wrong, it was too late. He FaceTimed me from the rooftop of a luxury hotel in Dubai, sunglasses on, a drink in hand. "Hey, where are the kids? Mom said she hasn't gotten an update." I stared at the screen. Behind him, fireworks exploded over the skyline. Celebration. He had no idea his world was about to collapse. "They're with their mother," I said calmly. His smile died. "What?" "Rachel has them," I repeated. "Legally." "You're kidding." "I'm not. She's already filed for emergency custody with new evidence. Including abandonment, And that forged travel consent form you gave TSA last summer. Remember that? His hand trembled as he lowered the phone. You're bluffing. I'm not, I said. But go ahead. Try re-entering the US next week. He cursed. Loudly. Then tried threats. Do you have any idea what you've done? Do you think this makes you a hero? No, I said. It makes me an aunt who's not afraid of silence anymore. I blocked the number. And just like that, I finally felt the air in my lungs again. It had been nearly a year since my miscarriage. A year since my mother told me, everything happens for a reason. Maybe now you can be useful. Useful. That's what I was to them. They dressed it in fake concern, wrapped it in family guilt, but it always came back to control. You don't need space. You need purpose. Helping your brother's kids will distract you. Why don't you come live with us and reset your life? They didn't want me healed. They wanted me silent and dependent. But they forgot I kept receipts. Literal ones. Like the cash withdrawals from my brother's joint account, taken days after he told the court Rachel had abandoned their kids with no money. Or the emails where Mom called Rachel unstable and urged him to get her out fast before she gets smart. Smart. Rachel had always been smart. They just made sure no one listened. But I did. And now that her children were sleeping in her arms again, now that she had standing in court and backing from a women's rights legal fund, the silence was finally theirs. And I was just getting started. Because healing isn't quiet. It's thunder wearing lipstick. 3 days later, my mother finally lost her composure. It started with a voicemail. One long breath, then, how dare you? This was supposed to be our weekend. You needed help. You needed rest. But you just had to ruin everything. Again. I listened in silence, standing barefoot in Rachel's kitchen, holding a cup of lukewarm tea she'd made me the night before. Her son was painting at the table. Her daughter had fallen asleep beside the dog. She wasn't a monster. She was a mother. But my mom's voice kept going, bitter and sharp. Do you know how hard your brother works? How much we've sacrificed for that family? You wouldn't understand. You've never even held a child of your own. That one stung. But I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just set the phone down and let her finish talking to the countertop. They always saw my grief as a vacancy. An open room where they could drop their mess and walk away. But I wasn't a hotel. I was a hurricane learning to name herself. And the name they never expected me to say next was Melinda. Melinda was Rachel's cousin. A court-appointed child advocate. And she had a voice that could part oceans in a courtroom. By noon, she'd filed a motion to bar my brother from any unsupervised access until the full custody hearing. By 3 p.m., we had surveillance footage of the airport drop-off and the car that drove away without a car seat. By dinner, my mother called again. This time crying. I didn't know. I thought it was just a break. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. She always didn't know. She always meant well. But I finally saw the truth. She didn't want a daughter. She wanted an assistant who didn't ask for love in return. You packed my brother for Dubai and handed me 2 toddlers like it was some favor, I said. Because you had nothing else going on, she shouted. I almost laughed. The grief. The therapy. The quiet clawing to feel like a human again, wasn't something. No. Now I had the one thing they'd always underestimated. Power. Not over them. From them. Because I didn't need to scream to break them. I just had to tell the truth. And let it echo. It didn't take long for the masks to fall. Rachel's lawyer called me 2 days later. They're panicking, she said. Your brother's lawyer offered shared custody if she drops the abandonment claim. I almost laughed. They were negotiating like it was a business deal. Like children were just bargaining chips on some corporate chessboard. I gave her one answer. No. Because you don't make deals with people who think you're disposable. Meanwhile, my mother was unraveling fast. She'd always been good at spin. Church luncheons, charity galas, PTA committees. But she couldn't hide this. Not when the truth had teeth now. One of her friends, Miss Cynthia, a woman I hadn't seen since childhood, sent me a private message on Facebook. Your mother's saying you were hysterical after the miscarriage. That she had to take control for your own good. Honey, I know manipulation when I hear it. And I'm sorry. That's when I realized. They weren't just trying to gaslight me. They were trying to rewrite me. Rewrite the story of who I was. What I had survived. What I had become. But I had the receipts. I had the documents, the texts, the voice notes they thought I'd deleted. And now I had Rachel. We stayed up most nights piecing everything together. Photos. Statements. The full picture of the damage they'd caused. It was strange. This alliance between two women they'd tried to pit against each other. But shared betrayal is a powerful glue. It stitches scars into armor. And then came the court date. I sat behind Rachel, silent but solid. My brother walked in with a new lawyer and tired eyes. The judge asked one question. Where were you when your children were left at a train station with no plan, no support, and no legal consent? He stumbled. He muttered something about family understanding. Rachel didn't flinch. She had the boarding pass records. She had photos of the kids eating crackers on the station floor. And she had me. A woman they once called broken. Now standing in truth, not tears. By the end of the hearing, the judge granted Rachel full temporary custody and ordered a psychological review of my brother's parenting. Outside the courtroom, my mother approached me. I just wanted to help, she said softly. No, I replied. You wanted control. But I'm not yours to carry anymore. And I walked away. Not out of anger. Out of peace. Because sometimes healing means giving back the weight that was never yours to hold. The custody hearing made headlines in our local paper. Not because my brother was important, he wasn't. But because the story was so unusual. Father leaves kids with grieving sister at train station while jetting to Dubai. That was the headline. But the subtext was louder. How dare she fight back? My inbox was flooded with family emails. Cousins I hadn't heard from in years. Aunts who once held my hand at funerals. Some were kind. You did the right thing. I had no idea what you were going through. Others were, less so. You've humiliated your mother. This could have been handled privately. But I wasn't ashamed. I wasn't hiding anymore. What they didn't know, what my mother still refused to acknowledge, was that I had been one step from the edge 6 months ago. 6 months ago I sat on my bathroom floor staring at a bottle of pills after my miscarriage. Not because I didn't want to live. But because living felt like screaming into an empty room where no one answered. And do you know who finally answered? My old college roommate, Renee. The one person they never expected. Renee was now an immigration lawyer working in DC, and when I told her everything, from the train station to the Dubai trip, her response was terrifying and beautiful. Your brother violated an international custodial order. If he tries to bring them back without clearance, the State Department can intervene. I blinked. Wait, like legally? She laughed. Legally. Loudly. Permanently. And she meant it. With one formal complaint filed and one red flag entry on his return notice, the Dubai trip stopped being a vacation and became an international incident. Suddenly my brother was stuck. He couldn't fly home without legal clearance. He couldn't bring the kids back even if he wanted to. And Rachel? Rachel filed for full custody the next day under the Hague Convention. My mother showed up at my apartment that night. No warning. No knock. She stood in my hallway with tear-streaked mascara and a trembling lip. You've destroyed our family. I looked her dead in the eyes. No, Mom. I just stopped letting you use me to hold it together. She didn't know what to say. Because for the first time I wasn't the weak one. I wasn't begging. I was becoming. And I wasn't done yet. Because if there's one thing grief teaches you, it's how to rise without permission. The fallout came fast. My brother's company, his little startup that Dad invested $70,000 into, started hemorrhaging clients. Not because of me. Because his mess had spilled online. And when the media dug deeper, they found more. Unpaid interns, fake payroll records, shady offshore invoices. Turns out, the same man who left his children at a train station had also left his investors in the dark. Rachel and I watched it all from my living room. 2 cups of tea, court documents spread between us, the kids asleep in the other room. I used to be scared of him, she said, folding her hands slowly. I used to believe I deserved to be ignored. I nodded. Me too. About my mother. There was something holy in that silence. We weren't bonding over pain. We were bonding over survival. We weren't trading sob stories. We were rebuilding the dam foundation. The final custody hearing was scheduled for the next week. And this time, Rachel walked in wearing navy blue with a binder full of affidavits, photos, daycare receipts. And beside her, me. In black. Not because I was mourning. Because I wanted them to know. The old version of me was gone. The girl who accepted scraps of affection. The sister who said, okay, every time they handed me someone else's mess. The judge barely looked at my brother. The Dubai trip, the false assumptions of custody, the documented neglect. It was over before it started. Rachel got full legal and physical custody. My brother was granted limited, supervised visitation after mandatory parenting classes. He didn't even look at me when the ruling came down. He just stared at the floor like it had betrayed him too. After court, Rachel hugged me hard. You saved me, she whispered. No, I said quietly. We saved each other. And just like that, I started breathing again. Not the shallow, survival breaths I'd been taking for years, but the kind that fill your lungs with life. I walked outside, let the sun hit my skin, and dialed the only other person I needed to hear from. Renee picked up on the first ring. It's done, I said. And her reply? Then it's time to live like it. Because revenge doesn't always wear rage. Sometimes it looks like reclaiming peace. And not apologizing for it. 3 months later, my mom sent me an invitation in the mail. It was embossed in gold like it meant something. Family dinner. Sunday at 6 p.m. Let's heal. I stared at it for a while. Felt like a performance. A reset not for me but for the version of me she hoped I'd return to, the agreeable daughter, the easy placeholder, the emotional dump site. I didn't go. Instead, I spent that Sunday pushing strollers through the park with Rachel and the kids. We fed ducks. Bought lemonade from 2 kids with a folding table and crooked smiles. Laughed until our cheeks hurt. Healing didn't need a dinner table hosted by the very people who broke me. It needed boundaries. It needed truth. Rachel had moved into a small place across town, close enough for daily visits. Her ex, my brother, was back in court, this time for tax fraud. He'd always been reckless. He just never thought consequences would find him. And Mom? She never apologized. But she did call one night, quietly, voice brittle. You really aren't coming back, are you? I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, you told me I was fragile, Mom. But it turns out I'm fireproof. Then I hung up. Not out of hate. Out of self-respect. See, revenge doesn't always look like slamming doors or screaming matches. Sometimes it's walking away when they finally realize you were the glue holding everything together. And choosing never to be their glue again. I started therapy. I picked up painting again. I stopped apologizing for needing rest. Every time I passed the mirror, I whispered, you are not selfish for saving yourself. The last piece of the puzzle came when I got a small card in the mail, from Rachel. A drawing her daughter made, stick figures holding hands. One labeled Mom, one labeled Miss Lauren. She had written in crayon. Thank you for finding my mommy. That was the closure. Not courtroom victories. Not headlines. Not even the justice system doing its job. But a child, safe, loved, and finally heard. Because the greatest revenge is not becoming them. It's becoming free.